Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/am I the asshole for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my thoughts and opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Posted by Yard Flamingos. Am I the asshole for not taking down my yard flamingos after neighbors complained? I bought a house a couple years ago, and I've been working on making it look nicer. I spent a lot of time redoing the front gardens, trying to make it neat and nice. A few weeks ago, I was at a greenhouse buying some plants for the garden, and I saw 2 yard flamingos marked down on clearance. I knew they belonged to my garden. They're not everyone's cup of tea, but I think they're a lot of fun. I set them up when I got home, and a couple of days later, my neighbor was knocking on my door. She was demanding I take down my flamingos because they're extremely gauche and lowering the property value of the neighborhood. I told her I'm not taking them down because I like them, and the property value isn't going to be hurt by 2 yard flamingos. I also don't live in an HOA, and as far as I'm aware, there are no town ordinances about yard flamingos, lol. She's posted pictures of my house, the street I live on, and a close-up of my flamingos in our town's Facebook group to complain about them. Some people agree I should take them down. After that, another neighbor came over to tell me to get rid of them. My mom also agreed I should take them down to keep the peace with my neighbor. I like them. I smile when I see them when I pull into my driveway. I have no plans to take them down. Am I the asshole for not taking down my yard flamingos after some neighbors complained? Edit, everyone keeps suggesting garden gnomes. I kinda hate those. A lot. Also, I'd never say anything to someone with a yard full of gnomes, but I won't buy them. You could probably buy those plastic yard flamingos in bulk and really demonstrate what it would look like to devalue the property value of the neighborhood. Just a thought. Every time they complain, just simply add one to the front yard. Over and over again. What are they gonna do? Break them? You can just keep adding them, and then get a camera and catch them. No, but in all seriousness, the camera probably is your best option in case they do end up resulting to property damage because of your flamingos. Not sure if they would resort to that, but it is something to be aware of, because you never know. Although personally, I think the best solution actually comes from user beneficial ad 4047. Not the asshole, start theming them for holidays. For Mother's Day, give one of them a skirt and a bouquet of fake flowers. For Father's Day, give the other one a tie and a hat. For Memorial Day and Independence Day, give them some kind of patriotic or reverent or whatever kind of situation. Masks and bags of candy for Halloween, pilgrim get-ups for Thanksgiving, Santa hats for Christmas, and lights that follow their contours. All of this assumes that you're in the US, of course. If somewhere else, you get the idea. This actually gave me the idea that if you really want to make it worse, specifically have them appeal to the children. Theme them in ways the kids will love them. So if the flamingos ever get taken down, the kids will riot on your behalf. Make those flamingos a false idol those children will spill blood for. And that will surely teach your neighbors who's boss. It's the flamingos, that's who's boss. But in all seriousness, not the asshole, you're fine. Cryptographer Sad, 7952. Am I the asshole for not taking an 11-year-old's word for it? My, 20, dad, made some friends when he studied abroad. One of them is on visit in our country right now, and he brought his daughter, 11, with him. He asked if I could take her to our national museum since it's good for kids to practice some art appreciation. I said sure. She wasn't very enthusiastic about it though. When we were waiting for the opening time, she pointed at a nearby cafe and asked if I could buy her a cup of coffee, saying it's the least I could do before making her spend 2 hours look at some boring stuff. I hesitated, and she said her dad lets her drink latte, so I called him just to check. He said yes before asking, "Did you think my daughter is a liar?" And I didn't know what to say. It didn't occur to me that that was what I was insinuating when I was expressing my doubt. I just wanted to be sure. Ended up buying her an oat milk latte, her preference, before taking her on a tour. Don't know if I was too anxious, but when I took her back to the hotel, her dad seemed kind of frosty towards me. So user Aliver Curry actually pretty much summed up exactly what I was going to say, but probably in a lot less words. No way, absolutely not the asshole. Kids, in the general sense, will constantly push boundaries, particularly with people who don't know any better. And coffee is absolutely one of those things many parents will restrict kids from having access to. I think his response sounds a bit extreme, to be honest. You've known this girl presumably all for 2 seconds, and you've no idea if she's a habitual liar or a saint. If it gets brought up again, I just play it off as being nervous due to not having much experience with children, and while you believed her, you considered that her being allowed it in certain situations didn't automatically mean she'd be allowed it in this instance, and taking 30 seconds to check seemed the smarter plan than assuming and potentially causing problems for daughter or father down the line. I then probably refused to be involved with her or her father further if that's the sort of attitude you'll be dealing with. Basically snapping back with, no, I just didn't want to overstep your authority and make sure that she had permission to have a latte at this hour. Basically just buttering him up. I'm sure that anyone who's babysitted has probably had their boundaries tested and heard a child at some point say something along the lines of, well, mom actually says it's okay if I eat chocolate after 8 o'clock and watch My Little Pony until I go to bed. And a latte, very much for a lot of people, falls in the category of, I don't know about that. Because yeah, there is a chance that the mother does in fact allow their daughter to watch My Little Pony and eat chocolate after bedtime. But also, the child could be very much fucking with you and pulling your boundaries, so you may as well double check. Doesn't make you an asshole, it actually makes you responsible. Shadow016. Am I the asshole for refusing to let someone check my phone after a coworker accused me of taking pictures of her? Throwaway account. So this happened at work. I, 18 male, was on my stuff normally, scrolling through my phone and watching YouTube videos when a coworker, 17 female, suddenly accuses me of taking pictures of her. That caught me off guard. I told her I hadn't taken any photos and that I was just watching videos on YouTube. But she didn't believe me and started getting louder and kind of annoying, drawing attention from nearby coworkers. She said that if I had nothing to hide, I should just show her my photos. Luckily, the manager was nearby and came over because of the commotion. We both explained our sides. The manager said that if I wasn't hiding anything, I could just show the last 2 pictures on my phone to clear it up quickly. But the thing is that I had a lot to hide that I didn't want to show. Nothing illegal, creepy, or weird, and definitely nothing involving her. But still, private stuff that I didn't want anyone else seeing. So, I refused. I told the manager I was willing to prove my innocence in other ways, but I didn't want to compromise my privacy. As a good faith gesture, I showed my phone's battery usage stats, which clearly showed I hadn't used the camera app recently. I also suggested to check the security footage. After reviewing the footage, it showed my phone was pointed at the ground the entire time, and the angle wouldn't have even allowed me to take a picture of her. So, I was cleared. Even so, a few of my coworkers later told me I should have just shown the photos because she had the right to know if she was harassed. I told them that the evidence proved my innocence and there was absolutely no need to show anything. Especially not to her, someone who I've never trusted. So, am I the asshole? The thing is, even if OP showed his camera roll and what photos have been taken, embarrassing or not, there's always the possibility that OP's coworker could just easily reply with, well, he just deleted the photos. And there will be no winning in that scenario. Because now the burden of proof you've allowed it to shift onto, no, I didn't take photos of you, to, okay, here's my camera roll, to now you have to prove that you didn't delete the photos that you didn't take of her. The security camera footage was honestly your best bet for getting out of this situation, and the fact that people are trying to be like, oh, you should have just showed your camera roll. So, in the process of proving that I wasn't harassing her, she gets to harass me and invade my privacy. If they checked the security camera footage and it was crystal clear that OP was taking photos, that's a different story. Because yeah, then I would argue that OP's coworker probably has a right to know what kind of creepy shit OP in this instance would have been taking of her. But that wasn't the case. Instead, they found a way to prove OP's innocence without invading his privacy, but no, that's not good enough. If I were OP, I'd keep this coworker 6 feet away at all times and barely interact with them beyond anything work-related. Don't have conversations with them, don't talk to them. Just literally do everything in your power to not even acknowledge their existence beyond just needing to work with them. All it takes is a 17-year-old wanting to prove their convictions that you're harassing them or stalking them for them to start doing some pretty fucked up stuff to prove their point. Of course, I'm not saying every 17-year-old does this. This is more of just, please keep your bases in check because you have no idea who this person is or what they're capable of. Especially after this incident, it's better to be safe than sorry. Also, just for the sake of a paper trail, if your company has it and you have an HR or you have a manager's boss or something along those lines, make a report, make sure it's in writing, just so that way it's documented that this incident happened. So if she does try to continue her bullshit, there will be a paper trail and records of her doing this shit in the past. Mysterious File, 9406. Am I the asshole for keeping my son away from my mom because she fed him custard? My wife, 30s, and I... Oh, why did I do that? My wife, 30s, and I, also 30s, have a baby boy. Last year we flew across the country with him to attend a family reunion and visit my grandparents. Things were going well until my wife caught my mom, 68, trying to feed our baby custard off of a spoon. Against two of our clear rules. No sugar before 1 year old, and no spoon feeding. We're doing BLW. I had to Google what that is. It's baby-led weaning. According to huckleberrycare.com, it's a method of introducing solids by focusing on infant self-feeding and serving family table foods, usually starting at 6 months. So not custard. My wife and mom had discussed feeding boundaries at length for weeks, and our 6-month-old had just started solids. Since our son's birth, my mom has increasingly ignored boundaries. The first issue was her demanding photos at 9 a.m. despite our previous ask for no photo requests before 10 a.m. Her reasoning? Rules don't apply to grandma. When caught with custard, my wife immediately took our son and left the room upset without saying a word. I stayed behind and asked my mom why she didn't ask first, and she said, "Because I knew you'd say no." I was livid. This showed she knowingly overrode our parenting decisions. Later, she tried to brush it off as sarcasm. My mom's sister, who witnessed it, validated my wife's reaction. The next day, we sat my parents down to talk. My mom initially apologized but quickly backpedaled, changing details. "It was a fork, not a spoon. He just reached for it." Things got heated. My dad said we were being harsh, and later my mom claimed my wife screamed at her. Neither of us remember screaming, but we aren't going to gaslight her. We ended the trip early and pulled back communication. My wife, who had been sending daily photos and videos, stopped completely. I now send occasional ones. We tried working on things. My wife proposed an exercise where they would answer questions about their grandparent expectations, and we would discuss them together. We agreed they could attend our son's first birthday if we completed the exercise. They agreed. After multiple reschedules due to my wife's postpartum struggles, we finally set a time last minute. But my mom refused to get dressed to be on video, saying I called every shot so far, and that she'd just listen off camera. My wife felt slighted and revoked their birthday invitation. My mom later gave a veiled threat and then a different excuse. But the damage was done, and we withdrew further. After further reflection and therapy, we told them we need them to seek therapy before resuming visits. Their response mentioned the screaming again and uncertainty if this will work out, but then still asked for photos every once in a while. Since then, I've kept casual conversation open but deflected photo and visit requests until they start therapy. So, am I the asshole for holding this boundary until therapy happens? Is my wife the asshole for yelling or revoking the daily photos in response? For context, they were present at his birth and had 2 good visits where my mom respected boundaries, which made this breach feel even more shocking. So Reddit deemed this post to be everyone sucks here, and I gotta admit, I was kind of initially all over the place with how I felt about this one. I certainly started out 100% on the parent's side, even including the photo request limitation of after 9 a.m. because the way that I read that, which seems to not be everyone's interpretation, and I'd be curious to hear if this is just an exclusively me thing, was that it sounded like the grandparents were being excessively pestering in the mornings for photos, and I mean, hell, I've definitely had instances where if I don't instantly respond back to my parents, they believe the worst, like I'm dead or something, and I wouldn't be surprised if the 10 a.m. boundary was set because the amount of photo requests was getting excessive in the morning, and they hadn't even gotten ready yet or started their day, and it was exhausting. That was my interpretation of that, but according to the Reddit comments, I may have given way too much benefit of the doubt to OP here. Where I do agree with Reddit is that it does feel that OP was expecting an infinite amount of leeway with him and his wife, and the postpartum depression, definitely understandable. But any kind of leeway that was supposed to be given to their mother when it came to them having the therapy video call and setting boundaries and expectations was entirely not allowed. Scoffed at, even. Which I feel is unfair. I don't think there's any arguing here about the whole Custard situation, even if the wife did yell. The mother not only admitted, but exclusively went out of her way to feed the child something that was outside of the child's diet established by their parents, even admitting that Not only do rules don't apply to Grandma, but she knew that they would say no, so she decided to attempt to do it anyways. That certainly puts Grandma here into immediate asshole territory no matter what. Now, a lot of the conversation does seem to certainly revolve around whether or not the parents' reaction were comparable to the Grandma's initial action. It doesn't sound like Grandma here in this story is necessarily a bad or evil person, just potentially fucking annoying. And it sounds like her annoying tendencies may have rubbed off on OP a little bit, and that can help explain why they had the reaction they did. There was actually a commenter, and for the life of me I can't find it right now, which sucks, but they basically boiled down to this as, do you really want to explain to your child in the future why they don't have contact with Grandma, being that they tried to feed you a spoonful of custard as a baby? And I will admit, that perspective made me realize that, oh shit, yeah, that is kind of what's happening here. Grandma definitely overstepped for sure, but Grandma is also willing to attempt to go to therapy and help establish those boundaries, but OP and their wife are certainly being difficult about it. As stated previously, they're expecting infinite leeway when it comes to them and their schedule, but not giving their parents any kind of leeway. There is certainly a lot going on here, and I would genuinely be curious to see how you all feel about it, because I definitely do somewhat agree with the everyone sucks here category, but I'm not sure how the percentage of blame would be distributed. I definitely 100% think that the Grandma overstepped and is the asshole for going against the parents' wishes for the child's diet. Without a doubt, don't get me wrong on that. But how the post escalates, I think that's where a lot of the conversation could be had, and I'd be very curious to hear your opinions on it. Quick guidance, 9560. Am I the asshole for telling my friend everything everyone has been afraid to tell her? I, 17 female, have a friend who got a new boyfriend a few months ago. Our friend group, 5 girls, was really happy for her at first because he's nice. But it's gotten to a point where they can't be apart for more than 5 minutes. He also lives in a different city, but somehow he's always here. When we're at school, they FaceTime constantly. The moment school ends, he's already waiting at her house. Whenever our friend group hangs out, he's there too. It's gotten really annoying. We literally can't be around her without him being there or at least being mentioned. And when he's there, she won't even look at us. It's like we're invisible. It feels like she's not our friend anymore. Last night our group planned one of our usual late night hangouts. We like to meet around 10 p.m. and walk around all night just talking. But 3 hours in, it was obvious that she and her boyfriend were just walking ahead of us, talking only to each other and ignoring the rest of the group. Everyone else kept whispering about how annoyed they were and how mad this situation was making them. I wasn't enjoying myself at all. I asked the girls if they wanted to just leave them, because honestly, I didn't think they'd even notice. One girl said yes, but the other 2 didn't want to abandon her. So I left with the one who agreed. We said goodbye, and only then did my friend finally notice us for the first time that night. She asked where we were going. I was so annoyed that I just told her that we'll talk about it later, and left. We went to eat ramen and continued our walk, and honestly, that night was more fun than anything we've done together with her in the past month. The next day, she showed up at my house unannounced, and of course, her boyfriend was with her. She demanded to know why we left, so I told her. Not just about last night, but everything everyone had been too scared to say. I told her that she and her boyfriend are obsessed with each other, ever since they got together. She doesn't care about us, that she treats us like we're only there for her convenience, like punching bags when she's mad, that she acts entitled and thinks that just because she's had a rough past, she deserves everything, that she's rude, possessive, that she thinks we owe her something just because she was the one who brought us all together. I unloaded everything. She was crying by the time that I was done, and she left. But 5 minutes later, she started the argument again in the group chat, which annoyed me even more. So I said all the same things again, but this time I gave examples of every single thing I brought up. She left the group chat after that. Now the other girls are mad at me because some of the examples I gave involved things she had done to them, not just me. I don't know what to think. Am I the asshole? I don't like how we all complain behind her back, but no one had the guts to say anything to her face, but I feel bad that I made her cry. I can almost guarantee every person in that friend group probably has a list about not just you, but everyone, of grievances that everyone has with each other. That's just part of the human experience. It also sounds like your friend is going through the honeymoon phase of their relationship. It would probably have died out eventually, but it's currently in that super fucking annoying phase of young love relationships where they're just obsessed with each other. That's pretty normal at that age. Like, OP's 17. They're a high schooler. One of my biggest pet peeves, and something that really just gets under my skin, is when someone's like, yeah, everything's fine. And then like 2 weeks later, they unload this laundry list of grievances they've been building up against you for the past 3 years. Like, that shit fucking sucks. I'm going to say a gentle you're the asshole here, because OP had the opportunity to have an actual conversation with their friend about the fact of like, hey, it feels like you're kind of just leaving us to the wayside for your boyfriend, and we feel like excluded, or that we're all third, fourth, fifth wheeling for you and your boyfriend here. So maybe could we have some time where it's just us girls instead of including your boyfriend? But no. Instead, OP dropped every minor inconvenience or grievance they've ever had with them in front of their boyfriend, made them cry, brought up their childhood trauma for some reason, and then just expected that to be totally A-okay. And I don't blame OP's friend for then going to the group chat and being like, hey, does everyone feel this way about this? And then you doubled down and went for the jugular. In the end, the reason why I'm more in favor of the gentle you're the asshole is just simply for the fact that OP could have handled this a lot better. Their feelings were justified with the feeling of third wheeling for their friend's relationship, but the way they handled it was just not the correct way of going about it. I'm also in no way the expert on 17-year-old girl relationship structures. It'd be really fucking weird if I was. So, please, if I'm missing something, let me know. Freaky za. Am I the asshole for not forgiving my father after he stole my inheritance? It's 1999. My mom passes away from liver cancer. I'm 25 years old, single child, wet behind the ears and gullible. 80% of my mother's estate at the time, about $1,600, but we're not in the USA, pays out to me. My dad says due to my mom's deteriorating mental health, they never had the time to change her will. The money should have come to him. Can I pay it over to him? I agree, because one is supposed to trust your parents. Fast forward about 5 years, and one brief failed marriage later, he finds himself a nice Russian bride. The dynamic changes, and he badmouths my late mom at every barbecue, etc., and his new wife is the best thing ever. I move cities, get married, start a family of my own. We chat on the phone once a week or every 2 weeks, but don't see each other for years. 8 years to be exact. Him and his Russian bride come and visit once, borrow my truck to go to a big national park. I gave it to them with a full tank of diesel. I got it back empty, with the light on. In 2023, he sold his house and moved to Russia with his bride. I'm not sure if he invested the house money locally or if he moved it to Russia. I suspect the latter, so that the bride has easy access to it when he falls over. My, now late wife, falls ill and passes away last year. I send a message to everyone after she passed away with all the funeral details and what happened. My dad's response, "Oh, now that's bad news." He doesn't bother flying in for the funeral service or anything. He messages me a few weeks later, asking if she was cremated or buried. Like, what the fuck? I speak to his sister, a highly educated PhD with many law degrees, etc. We speak about my mom's passing and the similarities to what happened to me. I mention the inheritance. She freaks out. She, being legally qualified, helped my mom with the will in the hospital before she passed away, as she knew my dad would be a douche about the money. I confronted my dad about the money, 25 years after he swindled me out of it. He denies it, then tries to claim the amount was 10% of what it truly was. And with every lie, I bring out what I remember to be the truth, along with evidence. Eventually, I tell him never to contact me again, and stop answering his messages. He tries to message me once a while, but it's more and more random. Turns out that it looks like he has early stages of dementia. A few months later, some distant family contacts us, asking why I have no contact with my father, because he reached out to them to talk and he seems lonely. We suspect the bride leaves him alone at home because with dementia, he's a handful, and she doesn't want to deal with him. We tell them what happened, and they understand. As time passes, his sister's now asking me to forgive him for what he did, and to free my soul from these shackles, as she calls it. My reply was from the series Billions. Hate is nature's most perfect energy source. It's endlessly renewable. I have no urge to forgive him, but am I the asshole for not forgiving? If I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. Not on whether or not OP's the asshole, because he is most certainly not the asshole, no matter what choice he makes. What I'm unsure about is what choice to make. Should he forgive his fathers and free himself from the shackles? Or should he continue to let that resentment hold on? And the only reason why I'm unsure of what the right choice is because of the early onset dementia that's happening. If it wasn't for that, I'd say hold on to it and make him feel the guilt. But because of the dementia, there's a chance that as he ages, he won't remember any of the reprehensible shit that he had done to OP. Like, OP's father is 100% a user. The actions that he had taken from swindling 16K out not just stole the money, but also the trust. And additionally, small little details like borrowing the truck and returning it with an empty gas tank, that's the kind of stuff that just shows OP's father's intentions. But as he ages, if there was a part of him that actually loved his son as a son, then perhaps that's what'll remain. And he won't remember the transgressions he committed against OP and just wonder why his son doesn't talk to him anymore. This uncertainty of mine probably comes from the fact that one of my general anxieties and a fear that I have is being hated without knowing why. Of just dealing with people looking at me in a certain way and just not understanding what I did to deserve that. Because I've been through that. I've dealt with in the past a friend group who had someone spreading some pretty fucked up rumors about me that just weren't fucking true. In dealing with the scorn and the looks of just hatred that were pushed my way because of that shit. It sucks. It's not a fun position to be in. I mean, in this scenario, like, OP's father definitely deserves it, but he doesn't remember why. And additionally, one of the sadder parts is even if you did try to mend the relationship or forgive your father, he may not even remember the forgiveness and just only remember the relationship being the emptiness that followed his actions. At this point, I'm kind of just rambling because my own fears and anxieties are eating at me with this one, and I'd be really curious to hear what your opinions are. Should OP forgive or accept his father's actions, or should he just continue to let him deal with the guilt that he may not remember? No matter what though, most importantly, OP is not the asshole with any choice he makes. It's just more of, what would you do in this scenario, and what would your conscience have you do? We all operate differently, and we all come from different walks of life that slowly affect how we approach scenarios, and that does drastically modify how each individual person would approach a scenario like this. Hell, any scenario they're presented with. So I'm curious to hear what you think on this one. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code ODDS at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.